Hi everyone, it's Ash from FPL Hints, here with some wildcard drafts for Double Game Week 35. As always, if you're able to like, share and subscribe, that will be greatly appreciated. So what we're going to do in this video is look at the fixtures that we've got coming up, do some initial drafts and chop and change accordingly, but also something different to what I normally don't do. We're also going to do a SWOT analysis for each of the drafts so that we can look at what the strengths are, the weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And just an important caveat here as well that I used my wildcard, I think 10 game weeks ago. So I unfortunately won't be activating any wildcards between now and the end of the season. But I want to give you an idea on the kind of drafts that you could potentially build. And of course, it will depend on whether you're chasing rank, protecting rank, or doing something in between. So first of all, just to bring up this fixture overview, which is available from FPL.team. So we can see that we've got a double game week 35 for Chelsea, who play Aston Villa and Tottenham, and we've got a double game week 35 fixture or fixtures for Spurs, who play Arsenal and Chelsea. Now, in addition to double game week 35, both Spurs and Chelsea have a double game week in 37, whereby Spurs play Burnley and Manchester City, and in Chelsea's case, they'll be playing Nottingham Forest and Brighton. So logically speaking, just on that alone, it makes complete sense to have a triple up for Chelsea and Tottenham. And in terms of the other fixtures that you've got for double game week 37, you've got Brighton, who've got Newcastle away and Chelsea at home. And then further down, you've got Man City, of course, Fulham and Tottenham without any other European distractions at hand. And you've got United, who've got Arsenal and Newcastle. And then Newcastle United, who've got Brighton at home and Manchester United at Old Trafford. So plenty of teams that are worth considering. Of course, some of these fixtures are more favourable than others. And it's good to know that you've got a healthy number of so-called premium teams here as well. So look, without further ado, let's get straight into it and start building what is, I don't even call it a draft one, but I want to call it an initial draft. And this might be suitable for certain teams and probably not so much if you're, well, if you're in a different position altogether. So what I'm doing right now is I'm clearing my current draft of what my team is at this moment in time, clear the decks, and then I'll show you the kind of players that I would want as a reference point. And of course, you can't have them all, but you want to target those doubles if you've got a wild card. So it's just worth factoring that in as well. So I'm going to start off with the goalkeepers first of all. And it might sound a bit controversial because Spurs actually haven't been keeping hardly any clean sheets of late, and the form hasn't been great. But I think it's a no-nonsense pick to have Vicario as one of the goalkeepers, purely because unlike those that have got just no more doubles for the remainder of the season, we can see there that he's got in total double 35, double 37, 36 and 38. So he's got 6 fixtures available, whereas there'll be teams who've just got 35, 36, 37 and 38. So just having that added 2-game advantage makes sense. And of course, you look at the actual matches that he's got in 35, you're not really expecting a clean sheet in the North London derby. You're not even expecting a clean sheet for the match against Chelsea in 35, so just hope for some save points there. And then 36, you've got Liverpool away, so probably no clean sheets there either. And then Sheffield United, 37, Burnley at home, and Man City at home, potentially one clean sheet there, and then Sheffield United away. So then the question remains that who would be your other goalkeeper? And would you start him in both doubles? So what I'm proposing for this draft in particular is I'm actually going to pick another goalkeeper. Might be controversial, but I'm going to pick Onana as my second goalkeeper here, who I would argue that in terms of form, like considering it's like his first season, he has kept some clean sheets. To be fair, earlier in the season, he had a string of clean sheets from the start. Well, not the start, it was the middle part actually, from around game week 11 till game week 13, then stopped keeping clean sheets. And then you could say that from game week 17, he's only had like a couple of clean sheets. But then you look at the fixtures that he has. So obviously we can exclude 34. You've got Burnley at home, you got Palace away, and you got Arsenal, Newcastle United, and Brighton. So there might be a case whereby you'd start him in 36, possibly start him in 37 as well. So you've got that option there. Whereas with Vicario, you definitely would have to start him in 35. And you could say that the fixtures are almost like level pegging, but at least you've got a different option there for goalkeepers when it comes to this potential wildcard draft. Now, onto the defenders. Again, this might seem like controversial on paper as well, but I'm going to go for another Spurs like defensive asset here, and I'm going to go for Pedro Porro. So get him in. I know he's yellow flagged at the time of recording this video, but just let's have him in there for the attacking prowess. And he went like for the whole season, he was showing this prowess of potentially hauling almost every other game, but he finally did get that double-digit haul eventually, but I think he's definitely worth keeping in mind just because of the extra 2 fixtures there as well. And seeing as we're on Tottenham right now, let's pick Son as well to complete the triple up. And with Son, you could argue that he's a differential captain, dare we say it, for double game week 35. Of course, we've got Cole Palmer as an option as well. And Son's form hasn't been that great either of late as well, but you could argue that 2 of the final 3 fixtures look quite interesting, but he's got the double-double, makes complete sense, triple up on Spurs. Now, onto the triple up with Chelsea. I think it goes without saying that the first Chelsea player you'd pick, without a doubt, is Cole Palmer, 6.2 million now, started the season at 5.0 million. And I would argue that, like, of all the double game week 35 players, despite the fixtures being Arsenal away and Aston Villa away, I think he'll be probably the standout captaincy option. The other player I'm going to pick for Chelsea in this wildcard draft, having the double triple up for 35, it has to be Gusto. Just pick him as well. And again, you could argue that with Chelsea, just like in Spurs, there's not really been that much clean sheet potential. Of course, he did pick up the clean sheet at Stamford Bridge in 33, and 35 is a bit of a tricky one for him. 37 seems like more favourable with Forest away and Brighton away, and you've got West Ham at home and Bournemouth at home as well. So he'd cap off the season with some reasonable fixtures, and no doubt that Pochettino and Chelsea would want to finish on a high after a very problematic 23-24 season. So in he comes, and then another controversial pick, but I'm going to pick him because you've got the wild card. You're going to want to attack every double that's available. It is Nicholas Jackson. And of course, we saw how Nicholas Jackson has been quite hit and miss this season. And even with their FA Cup semi-final outing, missed a hatful of chances. In some respects, it'll be interesting to see if Darwin and Jackson ever play in the same team in the future. Who knows? But you kind of get a similar vibe from both of them. But if I just bring this all the way down, actually, his expected goal involvement for the season should have been what it says here, 13.4, and he's scored just 10 goals so far. It's only slightly short of it. And in terms of actual XGI, it's 16.1. He's got 15. So you'd be forgiven to think that he's probably missed more chances than you would have envisaged. And of course, you look at the form for Jackson as well. that it's been quite patchy. Of course, he got the goal against Newcastle in 28, blanked 3 games in a row, 2 of which were very favourable fixtures against Burnley and Sheffield United. And then you've got the haul against Everton in 33. So, yeah, I think it just makes sense. You've got the wild card and you want to be heavy on your double game week players. So with these players, you'd expect Son, Palmer, Jackson, Gusto, Porro, and Vicario to start pretty much all of the matches between now and the remainder of the season. So in this draft, I've got them to start off the double ups. And then just to complete the defense, I'm going to go to Manchester City and I'm going to pick a defender who I'm trying to pick one who you'd hope is less likely to get rotated than some of the others. And I'm going to go for Ruben Diaz. We can see that like between game week 25, double game week 25, up to 33, he only was a no-show once. So you'd argue he's probably one of the safer Man City defenders. Of course, he comes at a premium at being 5.5 million, being among the most expensive defenders as well for them. So that's something that is worth keeping in mind. And then on to another defender who won't have any doubles between 35 to the end of the season. I'm going to pick Ben White. And with Ben White, you've got that peace of mind that Arsenal still have something to play for. And they have been like a clean sheet magnet of sorts this season. So makes sense to pick him as well. You've got at least 2 to 3 more favourable fixtures between now and the end of the season. And with Ben White, he's been known to get subbed off quite early as well. So if there is a late clean sheet wipeout, he has benefited. And you can see there that 20 points more than Gabriel, 7 points more than Saliba. He's definitely worth keeping in mind. And before I fill in that remaining defensive slot, actually, I'll pick some of our other premium attackers. So while we're on Arsenal, I know his form's been patchy of late, but you have to pick Saka as a quote-unquote safe pick as well for now. Hasn't got any doubles, as I mentioned, for Arsenal for the remainder of the season, but it would be crazy not to have at least double Arsenal on a wildcard 35 draft because, like I've said, they're chasing the title, and it would be just mad not to have any cover from them at all. On to my next pick, I'll go back to Man City. And with Man City on a wildcard 35 draft, you have to pick Phil Foden. Makes absolute sense due to the season he's been having. I mean, just look at the midfielders for them. 183 points. He'll smash 200 points plus just based on the kind of season he's been having, even if he does get rotated as well. And of course, Foden has that double, like I mentioned, in 37. And you could easily start him in all of those matches. Will he get rotated? You'd expect the rotation to be somewhat less with City being out of Europe, so in he comes. And I know there are question marks on Haaland's fitness at the time of recording this video, but in he comes in as well, with City looking to lock in another consecutive Premier League title. So that leaves us with 3 spots in our team, and I'm going to pick another double player. So going to go to Manchester United, and he's been a very consistent performer for Manchester United for this season. In fact, in the last few weeks, if I just bring up Bruno Fernandes, you can see that he's been getting fancy returns from 26. He's got 5 goals and 2 assists since then. And you know that from an ex-Min's perspective, he's pretty much locked on, so that shouldn't be an issue. So in he comes. Just look at all those red arrows as well, actually. Sorry, the red flags for Manchester United's defence as well. So might have to reconsider Onana when I update this draft as well. So that leaves us with this first draft, 8.6 million in the bank. I'm going to pick just I don't want to call him a dud sub, but like a sub 5 million forward. And the one that really stands out for me right now would be Muniz, who's been quietly scoring and getting assists in the second half of the season, and I've got 4 million in the bank. I'm going to go to United defence just as a just someone to just fill it in. I'll pick, is it Kambwala? There he is, 3.9 million. So in this draft, if I just zoom out slightly as well, you've got the triple up with Spurs, triple up with Chelsea. So double doubles there on their own. You've got the triple up with Manchester City at hand as well. And then you've also got the Manchester United coverage as well. And you've got your Arsenal coverage at hand as well. So just do the quick SWOT analysis here as well. So strengths, clearly, this is a very double game week 35, double game week 37 heavy team that you literally could get away with almost not making that many transfers between now and the end of the season because of the way you've set up the team. So of course you'd make a transfer here and there, but you wouldn't want to really make any hits with the team as it is. But then if I now focus on the weaknesses, clearly there is one team that's completely missing from this iteration, and that's Liverpool, who are also chasing the title as well. So I'm going to update this draft to include a Liverpool coverage as well. And then you look at the opportunities, clearly there is a lot of upside here in terms of double 35 and double 37. And the fact is that in terms of the differentials for opportunities, that Nicholas Jackson will be a differential. You'll have, I'd say, but Fernandez might be a differential right now, but up until 37, he'll probably have higher effective ownership. I'd argue that having Ruben Diaz as a defensive option for Man City would be differential, albeit more so because they've not been keeping many clean sheets right now. So there are opportunities here for sure as well. And then you look at the threats as well for this team that, like I've said, there is a risk that this is so double focused that like you look at the, in fact, I'll just bring up the top scorers in Fantasy Premier League this season right now, that the threats are clearly there to your overall rank. There's no Ollie Watkins, there's no Dom Solanke, obviously. Also, some of the other Arsenal attackers. Anthony Gordon's missing from this draft as well. So clearly the Newcastle coverage is somewhat lacking. And yeah, of course, you'd probably tweak it and get rid of Muniz for Isak for double game week 37. Albeit, I could even make a case that I'd want to change my formation and focus on a 3-4-3 formation. And with that in mind, I've already got Isak covered. So let's do that actually. So let's get Isak into this draft. I'm going to get some Liverpool coverage as well. And just for argument's sake, let's get rid of Haaland actually. And let's get rid of Saka as well. And for defense, in fact, I'm going to, if I can, I'm going to get rid of Haaland, and I'll get in Kevin De Bruyne, which there's always that risk of rotation with him or Foden, one or the other losing their place, but I'm going to just pick him for argument's sake. So got 9.5 million, and I think I'm back to a 3-5-2 formation here, but let's do that as well. Pick a forward, that's 4.5 million. Let's just pick Semenyo. So in this instance, I've got 5 million still in the bank actually. So let's, in fact, I talked about the lack of Liverpool cover here. So I'm going to get rid of Kamwala, and one player who offers the upside is Trent Alexander-Arnold. So let's get him in here for this second draft. 500,000 in the bank. So let's have a look at, just make sure that I've not done it so that there's like an imbalance. I've got 2 strikers, got 5 midfielders, and arguably I've got like too many defenders here. So I might get rid of Foden actually. No, I want to keep Foden. I've got the Chelsea triple up. I've got the Spurs triple up as well. I'm going to keep Palmer obviously. So if I can do this, get rid of Foden, can I get Mohamed Salah in actually in this draft? Hope I can. I think it might be a bit short. Okay, that is very short. So let's get Foden back. I think I actually had the right amount there. There we go. So it is 500,000. So in this draft, I'm still thinking it is a bit imbalanced, but I mean let's roll with that actually. So for double game week 35, you'd start Pedro, you'd have to start Gusto, and you could go 4-4-2. I mean, would you? I mean, Ruben Diaz, he's got Forest. You'd want to start him. I think this is too imbalanced. Actually, I think I wouldn't want it that I've got unless you've got a bench boost in, like you wildcard in 34 and then you bench boost in 35. That could be a potential option here for you, but I think it's become far too imbalanced due to not having another premium striker actually. So I've got Isak, I've got Jackson. I think another player that I could potentially consider would be can't really justify another United player beyond that, but yeah, I mean let's roll with this one as well. So I think the defense is too strong actually, but I've got the Liverpool cover. In fact, I know what I can do. I'll get rid of Anana. I'll get Raya in goal. So I can alternate between Vicario and Raya. And I need to just get like someone who plays in 37, but in fact, I'll probably pick a Newcastle United defender actually. Let's go to Fabian Schär, because I wouldn't necessarily want to start. Well, annoyingly, I could start Schär in almost all of these games, so he'd be a bit of a problematic one as well. So yeah, if I have Schär, I'd want to start him, so I can't really count on him. And I look at Arsenal's fixtures. Actually, Arsenal, I could potentially bench Ben White if I just bring him back. Yeah, there we go. So I would make the case that with Ben White in particular, I know he's very like hot in form, but I'd argue that I'd bench him for 30, like 35, and I'd bench him for 37, start him in 36 and 38. So there's a bit of rotation there. And with Trent Alexander-Arnold, I could start him in some of these matches as well. I'd probably, yeah, I'd want to start him in all of them as well. And then probably start Ruben Diaz only in the double. I know he's got favourable fixtures in 35. He's got favourable fixtures in like 36 as well, but do some rotation there. So let's do the SWOT analysis for this now. So clearly, strengths are that I've got a lot of balance across the team in the midfield and defense, which is very beefed up, albeit it's so beefed up that it's made the attack a bit lopsided. And the weaknesses here, without a shadow of a doubt, is that I'm missing Haaland. So I need to get him in, albeit I've got the triple up, as we can see, with Ruben Diaz, De Bruyne, and Foden. So I think fairly comfortable there. You look at the opportunities. I've got the triple up with Spurs. I've got the triple up with Chelsea still, and that in itself hasn't changed. And I've got the triple up with Man City, of course. So double game week 37 is covered in some respects. Weaknesses, like I mentioned, was Haaland missing. The opportunities I've got here are the fact that the double ups are covered relatively comfortably. And I've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, so I've got a few differentials here as well. And like with Isak, who's in sensational form as well, you'd argue that some might completely neglect him because they may not have a wild card and they may opt to get a doubling forward instead. And then you look at the threats to this team. Again, there's no Ollie Watkins, no Aston Villa coverage as well. You look at the trending players, in fact, at the time of recording this video as well, that there's no Newcastle United defensive cover, and you'd argue there's no Manchester United defensive cover either, but albeit you don't really need that, but you just need to factor in their double. And let's say you've got no Dom Solanke as well. So I'm going to do one final draft now, just to jazz this up a little bit. I want to get Haaland in, and I'm going to try and push into a 3-4-3 formation. So let's see what I can come up with here. Coming back to the team, so that's Haaland, Isak, and Jackson up front. And I've got Mohamed Salah, Palmer, Fernandes, and Son as my midfielders. And I just need to cut some of my other players out of here as well. So I think I might need to pick Kamwala of Manchester United. So I just get him in now as well. So 4 million more to cut off. Let's just say Vicario will be my go-to goalkeeper. Just needs just like a cheap goalkeeper here as well. Let's see who I can get. Let's just get Dubravka. That probably won't be enough. I need Pedro, Gusto. Let's get rid of Ben White. And let's get just another cheap defender, so that let's just cut that down a bit as well. Let's get Van Heck. He's also got a double in 37 as well. So I'm 1.1 million short of where I want to be. I'm not sure how fit Robert Sanchez is at the time of recording, but I'm going to pick Petrovic as my... Actually, I can't pick Petrovic because I've already got the triple up with Chelsea right now. But let's see what we can do here. Petrovic, about Gusto, 3.9 million. I need a dud sub defender. Let's pick Taylor. So assuming you don't have a bench boost here and you're wildcarding in 35, this is the other draft I have come up with. You've got double Spurs in Pedro Porro and Son. And you've got the triple up with Petrovic, Palmer and Jackson. And then you've got Haaland and Isak. And then you've got Palmer, Salah, Fernandes and Mainu. And then you've got Bruno Fernandes and Mainu as well, sorry. So with this, you're basically looking at a very wonky 3-4-3 formation. I think the defense might be a bit too weak, looking at Van Heck's fixtures as well, just to make sure that he is like starting regularly still, which he is. So you'd have to start Van Heck against Bournemouth away, Aston Villa at home as well. There's a risk that, like with Robert Sanchez not being available, but let's just quickly finish off and do a SWOT analysis of this draft. So clearly the strengths here are, you've got all the big hitters, Haaland, Mohamed Salah, Son, Fernandes, Palmer, Isak. So it's very attack heavy. And you look at the weaknesses, clearly the defense is very weak in comparison to the previous draft I showed, which had Trent Alexander-Arnold and Ben White in there as well. But then is there a case that there's less clean sheets at this time of the season? Who knows? And you look at the opportunities here, that clearly the opportunities are that you've got a healthy mix of those players that have the doubles and have the singles. So you're not fully in on the doubles, but you've got enough cover whereby you can still get those key single game week players as well who don't double in 35, as the case for Bruno Fernandes, or who don't double at all in the case of Mohamed Salah. And you look at the threats, clearly Mohamed Salah's form has been really bad of late, so that's something that is worth factoring in as well. At the same time, The other threats are clearly, I keep on mentioning it, I've not picked any Aston Villa players in this draft. I could argue actually that if I flip out Isak and get in Ollie Watkins, that I could then have a situation whereby I could switch to Isak. Let me just have a look. I'd need to downsize someone else actually. So who else would I be willing to sell? It's probably not that many. I mean, let's get rid of Ruben Diaz. Let's get someone who's a bit more of a rotation risk for Man City. So for argument's sake, like Rico Lewis, not that I'd endorse this right now, but you've got a bit of change there. So you've got, in this instance, the threat of not having a high-owned single game week player in Ollie Watkins is then actually covered off. That's something else that is worth considering as well. If you wanted to cover that base, of course, Villa are still chasing Champions League football as well, and no doubt he'll be scoring more goals between now and the end of the season. Ultimately, it's your choice. If you've got your wild card, if you're going to go all out and go in for the doubles, or if you're going to like spread the risk by having some single game week players as well. Apart from that, as always, if you're able to like, share, and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. Take care and all the best.